Okay, I'd like to welcome you all out to the Planning Commission tonight, March 24th, 2020. This is Warren Cox, the chair of the Planning Commission. A roll call, please. Heather?
Sorry. Good evening. Chairman Cox?
Here.
Vice Chairman Rajaratnam is absent.
Excused.
Commissioner Bill Ferris?
Here.
Commissioner Hayman?
Here.
Commissioner Reed?
Here.
4 present. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you all stand and we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll lead you in that. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
Second. Roll call.
Chairman Cox?
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris?
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Excuse me, Chairman?
Second.
Chairman?
Second.
There are no minutes
Yep.
tonight.
Not from our previous meeting?
No, I did not include minutes. We will review them next time.
Okay. Moving on. Public comment for items that are not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the Commission on matters that are within the Commission's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to Brown Act, the Planning Commission may not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. The public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. So I turn it over to public comment. Do we see anybody that's wishing to public comment? Commissioners, is there anybody there that in the hall that wants to provide public comment?
Nobody is here.
Okay. Well, so then let's move on. Discussion and other action items. Discussion and possible action on West Drummond median break for Arroyo Street intersection to serve 40 homes in the tract 7188 and 9 existing homes in Arroyo Street. Staff report.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Lauren Culp. I'll be reporting on this item.
Thank you.
On an application for a 40-lot unphased tentative tract map 7188 Emerald Point was made on October 9th, 2008 by Mr. James Bell. Public Works staff, Mr. Larry Miller, prepared conditions of approval on October 31st, 2008 for the tentative tract map, which did not include a median break in Drummond for the Arroyo Street intersection. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on tentative tract map 7188 on December 9th, 2008. The Planning Commission minutes of the meeting identify Commissioner Chairman Jeglin requesting clarification on circulation on Arroyo Street. James Bell's response was, and I quote, "Plans were to split the median east and westbound on Drummond to facilitate access into Arroyo and facilitate traffic entering Drummond from Arroyo to go east and westbound," end of quote. The amended conditions of approval in the Planning Commissioner's resulting resolution of 08-24 added condition 12J for the median break in Drummond, providing full access to Arroyo. On October 12, 2010, Mr. Mike Ferguson made application for phasing tentative tract map 7188 into 3 phases, units A, B, and C. The Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on the phased tentative tract map 7188 on May 25th, 2010. The Public Works Conditions of Approval 12J remained unchanged from Planning Commission Resolution 08-24. The public hearing was continued until July 27, 2010 to allow time to work out issues with the Lighting Landscape Maintenance District. The minutes of the continued July 27th Planning Commission meeting reflect an amendment to Public Works Condition 12J to specify the median break on Drummond shall be installed prior to recordation of Unit C. The amended conditions of approval in the Planning Commission's resulting resolution 10-06 amended Condition 12J to read, and I quote, "Median break on Drummond Avenue per design approval of the city engineer providing full access to Arroyo Street shall be completed prior to the recordation of Unit C final tract map," end of quote. The street improvement plans for units A, B, and C included the median break were approved on February 9th, 2018. In June of 2018, Mr. Chuck Rulin made an appeal to the city to be relieved of the median break on Drummond. The city manager directed staff to contact all emergency services to seek their recommendation or input on the median break. On June 28, 2018, staff received an email response from Captain Terry Wright of Kern County Fire that the median break would be beneficial for emergency responding vehicles. Staff also received recommendations for the median break from the City of Ridgecrest Police Department and Liberty Ambulance Service. On February 20th, 2020, the median break issue was placed on the Infrastructure Committee agenda and discussed at the request of City Council and Planning Commission for discussion and possible action, since the median break was a Planning Commission condition of approval 12J. Discussion. The International Transportation Engineers trip generation rates for single-family detached homes vary widely between urbanized and rural land use designations. Trip generation rates for urbanized land use can be as high as 9 trips per day per unit to rural land for rural land use rates of 3.5 trips per day, making a conservative assumption that our city would have 3+ vehicle trips per day. Track 7188, 40 homes would yield approximately plus or minus 120 vehicle trips per day. Without the median break in Drummond, it is reasonable to assume that there would be an increase in vehicle trips that would be forced to travel through existing developed residential neighborhoods to access the closest arterial street. It is also reasonable to assume that emergency response vehicles would enjoy some benefit from the median break with decreased response times and less turning or U-turn movements to access or depart from Arroyo. Departure response time is also important, particularly for ambulance service, to get to the closest arterial corridor. The same benefit may also be enjoyed by the residents of Tract 7188 as well as the 9 existing residents along Arroyo Street. It is also reasonable to assume that by offering direct access to the Drummond Arterial, there would be an increase in general public safety by reducing traffic volumes through existing developed residential neighborhoods and reduce turning movements such as U-turns around the medians. Planning Commissioners, staff does make recommendations. Staff recommends the Planning Commission to uphold condition of approval 12J for the construction of the median break on the basis of increased public safety and decreased response time for emergency vehicles for access and departure off of Arroyo onto the closest arterial corridor, Drummond Avenue. Staff also recommends the Planning Commission authorize the revision of the existing approved median break to a simple radius bullnose type median break in Drummond Avenue. Commissioners, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, there is a drawing that's within your packet which identifies this is a graphical representation only of what the simple radius bullnose type of median break would look like. The only consideration there is for that is that there needs to be at least the same design criteria for a left-hand turn pocket as what we would have for this simple radius bullnose. The consideration would be that with a standard left-hand turn pocket, there's room for a vehicle to exit off of the traveled way and decelerate and stage or queue into a refuge area to allow them to make a safe left-hand turn into Arroyo Street. The same is true for vehicles exiting off of Arroyo Street, wanting to make a left-hand turn or go easterly on Drummond. There needs to be at least enough room for a vehicle to enter into the median and queue or wait for traffic to pass by and then safely enter upon Drummond. So the dimensions shown on that drawing are not exact or exacting, but the same criteria would have to be applied as if we were designing the left-hand turn pocket, in which we would design for enough space for a vehicle to exit off of the traveled way and decelerate and queue to allow them to make a left-hand turn into Arroyo. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, I'm available for any question that you may have.
Well, before I turn it over to the other commissioners, I have one question for you, Lauren. How do you feel about the elevation change both on the eastbound and the westbound portions of that road?
Yeah, the grade between the two ranges between 7 to 9%, and this is not a percent grade that would cause any problem with, particularly on a 20-foot wide segment of median. This grade change would not offer any obstacle or problem for cars ingressing or egressing out of that median. It's certainly within the range of standards of practice for roadway construction, particularly for entering or exiting from intersections.
Thank you. Commissioner, comment?
Warren, I have a question for...
Any questions?
Yep,
Sure.
I have a question for Lauren. This is Bill. During the 2008 planning meeting, James Bell's response was, we're planning to split the medians east and westbound of Drummond. Is that per the general plan for the city that we would have a split there?
The general plan does not have the specific intersection by intersection. The general plan has general statements and directives or guidelines, and they're generally median breaks are made wherever there's a collector street, something that has something of some volume to try to get residents and emergency vehicles to quickly access neighborhoods.
Well, and one of the reasons why I asked that is if you look at Drummond from an aerial perspective, every other collector street, I think is what you called them, has the ability to make a left-hand turn. And this would actually be one that would be okay to not have a left-hand turn. I think Heather's flipping through there now. But if you look at Downs and Drummond, or I'm sorry, even from China Lake all the way down, every other access point seems to have the ability to make a left turn if you were going west to east. And this one would actually be one that would be bypassed to make that left-hand turn. So I'm just wondering why that requirement would even be there.
Are you speaking of a requirement for a median break?
Yes,
at
sir.
this particular location at Arroyo?
Correct. So,
Well, the logic here is simply the track 7188 with the 40 homes, by nature of it entering Arroyo, in essence now turns Arroyo Street into a collector. You also have residential homes that front along Arroyo, which they in turn would be utilizing Drummond for ingress and egress off of Arroyo. So by pure number of vehicle trips and volume of the 70 units, that would their only means of ingress and egress is off of Arroyo Street, which by definition would be a collector of vehicles from that track. So in essence, we do have a collector that would benefit by having a median break on Drummond.
sure. Would you, further east, is it Sierra View? So there would be no left turn going down Drummond to turn left onto Sierra View. And would you consider that a collector street?
Sierra View has those characteristics of a collector, indeed.
Okay. How about Sylvia?
By the Hello, did I lose everybody?
No, I was asking
No,
about
no, I'm
Sylvia.
here.
Sylvia Street, that's a little bit further east from Sierra View. So if you were going west to east, you couldn't access Sylvia by making a left-hand turn. So again, from this view, if you're traveling, west to east, it looks like there is a median break every other collector street, but Arroyo would not be that street. Inyo would be the next street. Downs would be the next street. Scott would be the next street. And Jessica. And then in between those, there are streets that don't allow for a left turn. Arroyo just seems to continue that pattern. Correct?
I would agree with your analysis. I would want to, however, let you know that the streets that you see easterly of Arroyo, all those streets, Inyo, the little cul-de-sac streets, will have access off of Drummond. So those are all going to have direct access to be able to turn left or right onto Drummond Avenue.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that. Yeah, I understand that. And then Harriet technically should not have that left-hand capability if you're traveling west to east. Because there is
So, Commissioner Ferris, what you might do is express your point here. Just because some other street in Ridgecrest don't all have the left-right turn lane, what has that got to do with this one? So you might express why you were asking that. Because they were not asked by the Planning Commission before. It has nothing to do with what the Planning Commission asked of this development.
Okay, so I'm just saying to stay in uniformity with the same turn left-hand access all the way up Drummond, it would seem that that wouldn't be necessary to have a left-hand or a left turn right there.
So I guess for me, the question would be, you use, for example, Sylvia. Sylvia isn't as long as like Sierra View. And so with this subdivision and those existing homes, you got 49 homes. And the access to this has a much greater demand than does Sylvia or others. And so I'm still coming back to, because other streets have not required it through the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission before did require it on this one. I'm failing to see your point in the aspect of, well, because we didn't do it in other places, why should we do it here?
Well, I mean, I could ask the question the other way. Why would we do it here if we didn't do it any other place?
Because the Planning Commission made it a requirement, and when the Rollins bought the subdivision, it was already a requirement. Why would we take the decision of a previous Planning Commission and turn it aside? So there has to be compelling evidence that would say, why would we turn it aside?
I wasn't a part of that previous Planning Commission, so I can't answer that with any, authority. I just,
right.
At looking at this, I would say that it makes perfect sense to not have a left turn lane right there.
Okay. So, but what we're here to address is we have a Planning Commission's decision to require a break. Now, we can basically accept what the staff has recommended, or we can ask for a change to what they've recommended, as in a motion. And so that's why I'm saying if we're looking for information, I think what Lauren Culp has provided as far as history is there, but we're here to address whether or not we uphold the previous Planning Commission's requirement or whether or not we set it aside. And I think we go into the weeds if we start going all over town. And that's my personal opinion.
I would agree if you with that statement that if we go all over town, but this is a block up from where I'm talking about, and even the same block in some instances. I mean,
and so because we didn't require it someplace else, we shouldn't require it here?
I don't think that's,
So for additional information, during this last few weeks, I knocked on a few doors of the existing housing next to this subdivision. And I got the feeling poorly, so I didn't knock on every home, but I knocked on several and talked to the residents, and they said that they would prefer having a break in the island. I talked to a number of residents that were within the estates. My son actually lives in the estates, and talked to a number of people there, and they thought it would be beneficial rather than people coming through the subdivision to go to Ward. So that's something I did that I'd like the commission to know, but I think if the case is to be made not to make a break and put aside what the Planning Commission has done, then that's where we need to start. Any other commissioner comments or additional questions, Bill?
I have one question for Lauren. Lauren, have you looked at the AASHTO manual and the Caltrans Highway geometric design manual and seen what cross slopes they recommended for maximums within medians? And Commissioner Reed, sorry.
No, I haven't. What I have done, though, is I've actually occupied the median and actually sat there in a vehicle in the same position as if I were queuing. And I found that the cross slope was very reasonable. It wasn't anything that was insurmountable or anything that I felt would be extraordinary. I have some examples of radius bullnose median brakes that shows even a more severe cross slope, and I think those were in your packet. But no, in my professional opinion, the cross slope is nothing that would be objectionable or dangerous or onerous in terms of constructability.
So I looked in,
Travis?
yes.
This is Commissioner Cox. The question I have is, are you recusing yourself on this item?
Yes, sir, I will be recusing myself.
Okay.
I had one other question about it, because I looked in the AASHTO manual and I looked in the Caltrans Highway manual, and they specified 5% as being what they would say was a recommended maximum for a cross slope through an intersection that is in a median break. And in looking at it, I think that it's going to be real hard to make that 5% through there.
Yeah, it will exceed the 5%, but you'll also note that Caltrans also allows for design exceptions, whereby if the topographical nature of an existing condition does not allow you to follow minimum standards, there are design exceptions. And we can look over some other municipalities where you have more hillside terrain, where you can find that there are median breaks and cross slopes of medians which exceed that 5%. So we do have the ability for making a design exemption.
Any other commissioner comments? No, I'm not hearing any. I'd like to turn it over to the public. Anybody that has phoned in that would like to say something on this matter?
We do have about 5 callers, so.
Yes, this is Mr. Johnson, 900 North Arroyo.
Yes, sir.
So I live at 900 North Arroyo on the corner house of Drummond and Arroyo. We've lived in this house since, with the original owner, since 2003 when the tract map was originally, when Bertrand developed this tract. Myself and the neighbors of the CCNR chairman for our tract. The arterial of Drummond has always had that median there, since it's a high traffic area with the 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. I personally don't want that median to be removed for safety of my family, because now there's going to be cars going 40 miles an hour making left-hand turns into my neighborhood. Also, the slope difference between the upper and lower, when it rains hard, the south side of the street gets flooded up to the median. I'm afraid that it's going to come over the top and flood out our neighborhood. I'm not sure who Mr. Cox talked to, but the two houses on the end, he didn't talk to us, and we've been here the longest, and it affects us the most. So I'm concerned that I'm not sure the data he received and who the neighbors that he received it from, but I've been making right turns onto Drummond for the last 16 years, doing a U-turn if I want to go back down Drummond, or going right on Mahan to drive to the base, or I exit going north and go out through Judy, Carolyn to Ward as a normal pathway out of the town. I'm also concerned with the 40 new homes going in. There's a lot of young families with children, and that's going to increase higher speed traffic coming off of Drummond or onto Arroyo into our neighborhood, which is unsafe. And there's also other exits going north on Arroyo onto Judy and Carolyn to Sydenham and Ward get out to get on the major streets. I'm also concerned if you open this up to left-hand turns, everybody in the rest of the neighborhood is going to use Arroyo as their exit to one of your arterial streets. So those are my concerns. I know the neighbors, Godards, they have the same opinion. I think they're on the phone also, and we can let him speak for another neighbor. If you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer any of them. Also, the 2008 Planning Commission. I have one more thing to add. The 2008 Planning Commission meeting, we never received notice of that meeting that they were going to change the provision in the track map. So we were never given notice at the 2008 or 10 meeting that these are getting added as a condition for that development.
Thank you. Any questions from the commissioners for this caller? Heather, the next caller.
My name is Zane Godert. I live on 906 North Arroyo. I've lived there for nearly 16 years, 2004. And I would add that I think the way this routes the traffic would be exactly what the city wants. It takes the traffic and routes it to Mahan. I would, even if I had to turn, even if I wanted to turn right onto Drummond from Arroyo, it routes me through Mahan. I would never go through the subdivision as a shorter way out to the northern part of town. Mahan's a major street. I'm afraid that for example, I live or work on the base, and I take Mahan to Inyokern Road and out to the base, or a major part of it is going to Walmart, Home Depot, or any part of the southern part of town. You take Mahan to it. So I dispute the fact that people would go through the subdivision just to avoid not being able to turn right onto Drummond, or vice versa, not being able to turn onto Arroyo from left on from Drummond. I do dispute the fact that you would have more traffic. I cannot imagine that that's a reasonable assumption to say we would have more traffic through the subdivision. And I am concerned, as Mr. Johnson pointed out, when it rains, the southern part of, or the northern part of Drummond Road fills up, and so that is going to spill over down our street. And I don't know that you have the same controls as if you are routing that through Drummond Avenue. And also, I was never talked to by, I believe it was Mr. Cox on that, and I would have directed him the other way. That I absolutely do not want to cut that median. I'm concerned. There's all kinds of concerns on how fast people go down that road, and then you would have to put speed limits in to control it, that you can get people to decelerate fast enough without getting rear-ended if they want to turn right onto or turn left onto Drummond. So I'm absolutely against cutting that median.
Thank you.
This is Commissioner Reed. I have a question for the homeowner.
Okay, go ahead.
I was wondering, I knew, not necessarily new to the area, but I got here in 2010. So all the medians, the cross gutters on Arroyo with planning of there being a subdivision there had already been there. But since your subdivision has been there and you've been here longer than I have, I would just wonder if the cross gutters were in and the plan for that subdivision was there prior to the median going in, or if the median was in before the cross gutters and the entrance to the subdivision was put in, and maybe they could speak to that.
That median, I lived in this area of town. Before that, I lived on Inyo Street, which is just down a block or two. That median has been in there before they started the subdivision that or my house. Before that was started, that median was already there.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I wanted to see if the engineers that designed the median originally had known that that was going to be a subdivision, and that would kind of speak towards their thought process. But it sounds like the median was put in before there was any inclination that there was going to be a road there. So.
Next caller.
Couple things I wanted to bring up is the median break was not included in the original condition approval prepared by the staff originally, and I think the reason why is the fit and finish on that, and then also the intent of the general plan. And when I say the intent, there had to been some sort of reasoning of why they had the grade difference that they do, if they ever intended any type of intersection going in there. So I also want to bring up the fact that there's been 0 wrecks at this intersection that we're talking about opening up for turns. There's been none since it's been in, so it's 0 liability to the city right there. We could be creating some. Like I said, I believe the intent of the median is the way it was designed to never have the median cut at that location. I've reviewed and spoke with many professionals, and they question the ability to fit and finish that in a reasonable manner. We're working on the improvements in phase 3 and now prepared to start houses immediately. This will slow the process and put additional costs on an already expensive project. Wanted to talk. I think I wanted to elaborate on what Bill was talking about. I think he was getting to the point that it wasn't like he was trying to compare other tracks to other tracks. I think what he was trying to say is all the medians that you see where you don't have those left-hand turns are based on the intent of the general plan and arterial roads. If you look, and I'm not, this is just for the sake of the trips per day. Over on Aileen and Atkins in Purdue, down Purdue Street, you have 70-plus units, 3.5 trips a day. That's 245 vehicle trips a day. Those people cannot access down. Okay, so they go through residential. They go through 4 resident collectors to get to Indian Kern Road if they're going to work on base. And you see that condition all throughout town. You see it Sierra View. You've got all the other streets you picked up, and then again, you got them all the way down Downs. And I don't think that it has anything to do with Planning Commission. I think it's more how you read and how you interpret the intent of the general plan and how you install medians on arterial roads. I'm not sure that's what he was getting at. That's what I was interpreting. Tamarisk, so you got Tamarisk over there. You got Capehart, and you've got no median break on Downs and Tamarisk. You have all of Tamarisk, all the Capehart apartments, all of Conejo. All those streets got to go down La Paloma to get to your left-hand turn. And again, it's not to try to compare different developments. It's to show that the intent of the general plan and the way it's written is specific in the way that they wanted to direct traffic. As far as the emergency vehicle, I got an email from the fire department where they did not need, they don't need it for what they're looking for. And also, making the assumption that all the fire departments are east of my development. All of them will be heading west and have no problem with ingress. Public safety.
Hey, Chuck.
We haven't had yeah.
So the truth of the matter is, if you read in the staff report, they're not saying it's mandatory. They're just saying it would be beneficial. So, and I think that's even what your email is yeah, we're not requiring it, and that's not what they're saying either, that they're requiring it. They just said it would be beneficial. So I don't think that either what the city got or what you got is making anything mandatory, okay?
No, I hear you. I understand that. I agree with you. It was what they were bringing up, or what Lauren was looking into was, does it, is it going to require or cost me any problems? So I wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to cause any problems either. So I think we're on the same page there.
Okay. Any questions from the commissioner for this caller? This is actually the developer if there's questions that you would like to ask.
Warren, I just have this is Commissioner Ferris, just, a point of clarification. That's what I was inferring, that it looks to me that this was established to be, to have no left turn lane there. And that's all I was inferring. Not that it was a mistake to do that on those other streets, but it looks like that was the plan from the get-go. Design standards, I guess, is the term I was looking for.
Yeah, I looked up the plan, the drawings, the construction drawings for this median, and I find that subdivision on the south side is I think it was in the 70s, late 70s. And when I looked at that design, they had the median there, and there was no reference to a future Arroyo Street. So in their design, they were not trying to accommodate anything. They didn't have anything to try to accommodate. So anyway, there's quite a bit of history behind that median.
Thank you, Lauren. Heather, do we have other callers?
Yes, I believe there are still 2 people on the line.
Okay. Caller, are you there? Heather?
Nobody's, if they're there, they can speak. We can hear you.
So no additional callers?
So if nobody else is
All right.
making comment, then we will move on.
Okay, commissioners' comments? Any other questions? Do I have a motion? Okay, so Travis is recusing himself, and Travis, we should clarify with legal, because I think on any particular subject, if you recuse yourself, you probably should not be asking questions either. But here's the deal that I want everybody to understand. If we have no motion, we're taking no action, and the existing planning commission's requirement will stand. So, do I have a motion?
So, Warren, if that's the case, then I would like to make a motion that we relieve the developer of any type of traffic break there and leave the median as stands.
Okay, do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, Heather?
Chairman Cox,
No.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Abstain.
So 2 ayes, motion fails.
Okay, so moving on. Staff report on item 2, recommending to the Planning Commission to review proposed 2019 annual progress report, APR, including the housing element annual progress report, and adopt a resolution 20-05, recommending the City Council review and approve the report and direct staff to submit report to the California Office of Planning and Resource.
Good evening,
Staff
Commissioners.
report.
So this is for the annual progress report for the calendar year January 2019 through December 31st, 2019. Government Code Section 654400A2 requires the city prepare and submit an annual progress report of the general plan and the housing element to the regional housing needs allocation. The City of Ridgecrest general plan includes various required elements and additional elements. That is the land use, the military sustainability, community design, circulation, conservation and open space, health and safety, and housing. The housing element was approved separately. So in the calendar year, we had no general plan or zoning ordinances or zone changes. The City Council took actions relating to parks and recreational facilities, 4 actions relating to the transportation or transit, several actions relating to lighting and landscaping and drainage benefit districts, and 2 final maps were approved, totaling 30 single-family residential lots. In addition, the Planning Commission took actions. They did 11 trap map extensions. Those maps totaled 953 residential and other lots. In addition to these, the Planning Commission approved 2 site plans. One was for Ridgecrest Self-Storage and another for Oasis. There was 2 tentative parcel maps that included Red Rock Villas and Oasis, and 1 variance for Oasis. Staff would ask that the Commission approve the resolution and make a recommendation to City Council to approve the reports so that staff may submit it.
Any questions from the commissioners?
No,
I make a motion that we approve this. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Chairman Cox,
Aye.
Commissioner Ferris,
Aye.
Commissioner Hayman,
Aye.
Commissioner Reed.
Aye.
4 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner items and comments. Do we have anything from our committee reports? Anything that's happened in the last month from our committees?
I don't.
So let me just say for the infrastructure, for Commissioner Ferris and I, most of the infrastructure, not all of it, but most of it was spent on this text on Drummond. And so there's no additional things to bring forth to the commission that I remember. Do you, Commissioner Ferris?
No, sir. It was mostly about the issue that we just discussed this evening.
Okay. So quality of life?
We have not met. It's been canceled.
Okay. And City Org has not met.
No, City Org met
Economic
last.
Development?
Yeah,
Oh, did it?
City Org met last night, and I'm looking for my notes right now, so give me 1 minute.
Okay.
Last night at the city org meeting, we codified the Ridgecrest Municipal Code, and that will be going to the council for approval. Ms. Charlin is going to post that information on the city's website so we can see what the updates are and the new proposed before they go to council.
Okay. Economic Development?
We haven't met since the last meeting.
Okay. Staff item?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Lauren Culp. I'd like to give you just a quick rundown of projects and status where we're at. The municipal code requires me to report to you on status of capital improvement projects. So if I may, I'd like to just give you a quick rundown.
Yes,
first of all, I'm happy to report that Southern California Edison has started the relocation of power poles along Downs. Power poles have been relocated, and now they have their underground crews. They've been dispatched to take care of some of the underground work. That'll be shortly followed by the overhead distribution crews relocating the overhead distribution lines over to the transmission poles. So I'm happy to report that. As far as the Down Street project itself, we'll be opening bids for the Down Street project this coming Thursday. We have other construction projects that we've advertised and opened bids for our Dolphin Avenue CDBG. Dolphin Avenue project. We got some very good bids on that. Looks like Bowman Asphalt is the lowest apparent bidder. And then on our Tamarisk project, it looks like Nagel Earthworks out of Bakersfield is our lowest apparent bidder. So we're getting some real good prices, and we're hoping to realize the same for our Down Street project on this coming Thursday. Other projects, we've awarded a design project for West Ward, the RSTP project for West Ward, in which we're doing a resurfacing project on between China Lake Boulevard and Norma. Our update of our standards and our quality assurance program, we have not awarded that, I should say. We've selected a consultant, but with this crisis we're faced with, there were 10 workshops that were required for developing our standards and our quality assurance program, and senior management, administrative management decided it'd be in our best interest to not award that at this time, but to award sometime after our budget has been approved, and maybe we have a better word from CDC and guidelines on how to conduct ourselves relative to the crisis we're in. We've awarded a construction engineering contract for our West Dolphin project. We've also got an RFP out that we've selected a consultant on our South Norma culvert under the Bowman Channel. We've also selected a consultant for the city's crack fill project, and we've got an RFQ out for contract city engineering services. As far as other projects, we do have our final report that's in, which you'll be taking a look at. It's our HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program, for our SSARP and LSRP reports, which are the street safety report for street safety improvements, for citywide street safety improvements. And so we will have that final report available for you in its final form here, probably the next Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
Other projects, let's see, we will be looking at our annual Lighting and Landscape Maintenance District annual engineers report. I will have some information for you for my research on how the city of Bakersfield, their process for lighting and landscape maintenance districts. And it also looks like we're very close to launching or advertising our project for our ADA compliance for the driveways along Ridgecrest Boulevard between Norma and China Lake Boulevard. So that's a real quick and dirty report for you on where we're at. We've got far more than that. That's just the main elements, but that's a quick and dirty verbal report for you to know what we're doing here in engineering.
Do we have any information either you can provide, Lauren or Heather, on previous projects that have come before the Planning Commission, what their status is? For example, like Holiday Inn Express. Heather?
No, I don't have any updates.
Heather?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would expect that we would be able to report to you maybe where they're at in a plan review, building review. I would expect that for some of those projects that have already been vetted through our Planning Commission site plan review, they're probably in some status of plan check and building. I'd suggest you give us an opportunity to query building department to see where they're at in that process.
Now, you might include, if you would, like Red Rock Apartments and some of these things that have come up over the last couple of years, to see what their status is, if they've backed away from them. I know on Red Rock we made a number of concessions and lot line adjustment to allow that to happen, and so I'm curious to where they are performing on any of this, or they're not. So that'd be fine. Can you bring it back to us at our next regular meeting?
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
Red Rock.
I'd be happy to. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Red
Any
Rock
other
is
items
in
from
plan
the
check.
commission that they might like staff to bring back to us?
No, sir.
Not hearing any. Does any of the commissioners have any items or any comments that they would like to share?
I don't.
Pretty quiet group tonight.
Yeah, I do.
All right, then we will stand adjourned of our regular Planning Commission at 6:59.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.